What is up, guys? I hope your 2025 is off to a good start. Hopefully, we can make that just a little bit better for one of you lucky viewers in today's video. This is going to be a giveaway build for my buddy Tennessee Mike to give away over on his channel. I'm going to leave Tennessee Mike's channel linked down in the description below. I appreciate it if you go ahead and check his channel out, maybe give him a sub, and you'll also get a chance to win this awesome custom watch that we're going to be building in today's video. Mike is getting close to reaching that 1,000 subscriber milestone, and so I wanted to do something special for him so he could celebrate that and also give you guys a chance to win something pretty cool. So appreciate it if you check his channel out. Let's go ahead and talk about the build. So starting with the dial, this is an SPB 147 OEM Seiko dial. It is a lovely kind of root beer brown with a sunburst finish, and it's got gold indices, and that's the part number for anyone interested. You can find these OEM dials on Watch Parts Plaza. They're based out in like the Netherlands, so that's where I source these OEM parts. I also sourced a OEM handset to go along with it. So you're going to have that matching, kind of old patina style loom, and it's all going to be Seiko loom. So you're going to get great loom as well. And then you can't beat, Seiko OEM quality. These hands are beveled in the center and they're high polished, so they look great. I'm a fan of the SPB 147, and Tennessee Mike's actually owned that model, so that's why I kind of went with this style for his build. I did do a little bit of a coffee mod to the GMT hand. This will be a GMT build with the NH34. So kind of did a little bit of coffee to the tip of that GMT hand. This is from Namoki's, so it kind of matches that ecru color of that loom. I think I did a pretty good job matching that up. So just one of those things, an extra little detail that I like to put into a watch when I'm, building it. So that's the dial and handset. It is a GMT, so we are going with a sloped insert from Namoki's with those gold accents. I think it's gonna tie into the watch and look really good. I went with a signed crown with the S logo on it, so that's going to be pretty cool. Slim case back as well to keep that thickness down. Dome sapphire crystal from Namoki's. All the parts besides the OEM parts are from Namoki's as well. Went with clear anti-reflective coating on the underside of that crystal. And then I went with a 62 MAS style case. Go ahead and pull it out here for you guys. The SPB 147 is a 62 MAS, so I figured I'd throw a fun little twist on that and do a GMT version of the SPB 147. I think that's gonna look great. Not sure how well that's coming through on the camera, but it's gonna look fabulous, I think. Namoki's do a great job on their cases. Nice polished mid case there, and then it transfers to that brushed on the lug hoods. Really nice machining on the case, and I think that's going to look great. And last but not least, I went with a non-marked chapter ring because we're going to have our GMT bezel, so you'll only be able to track 2 time zones with this one. I did look for a GMT chapter ring, but I couldn't find anything that really matched this brown of the dial. So I figured it would be better to go with one that is not marked. Sometimes less is more. So I think it's going to look really clean, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started on the build. So I'm going to start by broaching the dial. I need to broach this dial because it wasn't made for the NH34. And the NH34 has a larger cannon pinion, so I like to use this triangular shapefile to remove most of the material. Then after that, I like to go back in with this round shapefile to clean it up. This round shapefile will just give it a more factory fit and finish. So I like to finish the broaching process with this round one. And once I'm fully done with that, give it a clean here with some air just to get rid of any dust and particles. Flipping it over, let's have a look at it. And I think this thing looks great. Looks good. We're not quite done yet though. When I flip it over, you'll notice that there is a burr on the back side here from the broaching process. We need to remove that. That can actually push down on this dial washer that the NH34 uses, and it can actually put pressure on the movement and cause damage. So we're going to go ahead and remove this real quick. To do that, I use the flat side of my file, and then I just file it until it's completely smooth. This doesn't take long, but it is an important step to ensure that you can use a dial like this with the NH34. But once I'm done removing that burr and cleaning it all up, give it a little more air to get rid of some dust, and you can see here from the side that burr is completely removed, and we are good to go ahead with this dial. Before I install it though, I am going to clean it more with Rodico just to get rid of all the little debris from the broaching process. So I like to do a thorough clean on both sides of the dial. There is a little speck up there in that corner there. There's also one here trapped on the burr on this side, but I cleaned that up and that looks great to me. So happy with that. So this is the dial washer that I previously mentioned. We do need to install that first before our dial. It goes on like this. I'll kind of put it to the side here so you can see. It goes on with a U shape. So that's the correct way to install the dial washer. Now that we have that installed, we can get ready to install our dial. And this will just go directly on to the movement. And there's two dial feet on the back side. Just kind of push it on. And let's have a look here. It looks great. Super happy with how that looks. Our broaching looks good. It's not too wide, and if you didn't know any better, you'd say that this dial was made in a factory for the NH34. You can see here from the side that it sits nice and flush on that spacer for the movement. So super happy with that. Before we install our hands though, we do need to pull our crown out and cycle through until we get a date change. That way we know we're at 12 o'clock midnight and we can set our hands at 12 o'clock. So now we just had a date change there and we're good to go with installing our hands. I'm going to start with the GMT hand, and I just like to hold that with some Rodico and kind of get it in place. I don't press it on all the way just yet. That way I can line it up a little bit better like I did just there. After I got it completely lined up, I'll finish pressing it on. So I'm happy with that hand. Now we can move on to the hour hand. It's a very similar process. I like to press it on just lightly. That way I can make some adjustments. So I'll go ahead and line the hour hand up better here using my Rodico. And then once I'm completely happy with the alignment, I'll finish installing the hand down all the way. So I'll press that on just like that, and the hour hand is good to go. Now I'm going to go ahead and check our alignment here, and I'm happy with that. Looks good. I like to check from the side profile as well, just to make sure I have clearance between the hour hand and the GMT hand. Now I'm going to set the hour hand to the 6 o'clock position. This is just my preferred method when installing the minute hand. I just feel like it's easier to line everything up that way. So we can go ahead and install the minute hand here. Same way as before, I like to hold it with some Rodico, get it lined up, and then press it on. So I'll get that all the way pressed on, just like that. Our minute hand is on. Now we can go ahead and check our alignment. And this is what I was talking about before. It's just easy to see everything lined up when it's in a straight up and down position like that. We'll go ahead and check our cardinal positions as well. Check out our 9 o'clock position here. That looks good to me. We'll go ahead and check at 12 o'clock noon. This one's kind of critical because the GMT hand has to be lined up that 6 o'clock indice, and our minute hand have to be lined up directly at 12. That looks perfect to me. It is tricky to get that GMT hand aligned, so really happy with that. We'll check at 6 o'clock p.m. here. I did overshoot that just a little bit, but I know it's good because it lines up at 6 o'clock a.m. So we'll double check at 12 o'clock. This one is pretty critical as well. Just make sure all 3 of those hands are lined up. Super happy with that. Everything looks good to me, and we can go ahead and install our seconds hand. So I've zoomed in here a bit for you guys so you can see it a little bit better, and that little tiny post that the seconds hand gets installed on. So I'll just hold that with some Rodico and then press it directly onto that itty bitty post, and then give it another press to make sure it's all the way seated down, and our second hand is on. So we'll have a look at it here. I like to check from the side profile to make sure that the seconds hand has clearance, and that looks great to me. I am going to line the minute hand up directly underneath the seconds hand though and recheck just to make sure we are lined up from top to bottom. Everything looks good there, so we can go ahead and leave our seconds hand running here, and our movement side of things are good, and we'll start on our case. So starting with the chapter ring, this one's not marked, so there's no alignment tab, so we'll drop that directly in, and that's good. Now I'll go ahead and install our crystal gasket. So we'll get that popped in. I like to push it further past and then kind of let it backfill itself in. Easiest way to get the crystal gasket in my opinion. Just have a look and make sure that it's fully seated down there. I'll go ahead and clean everything out with some air real quick before we install our crystal. Make sure everything is clean. Don't want any dust under there. And then I unwrap the crystal and go directly onto the case just to prevent any chance of dust getting underneath there. Push that on finger tight. Now we can go ahead and put it in the crystal press and install the crystal. I like to rotate the case a few times while I'm installing the crystal just to make sure everything goes down nice and evenly. So we'll get that pressed on there, and I'll rotate it one more time here and fully install the crystal. And now the crystal is installed, we'll have a look at it. Check from our side here, make sure everything looks good. And the crystal looks good to me. Super happy with that. So now we can go ahead and go back to our movement. We're going to go ahead and pop this out of the movement holder and flip it upside down. We'll install it back into the movement holder. That way we can remove our crown. I'll zoom in here for you guys again so you can see a little bit better. That little dimple right there, we're just going to press it in. That way we can release the lever and remove the crown. With the crown out, we'll go ahead and flip the movement holder around, and we can get our movement assembly out of there. We'll go ahead and clean everything with some air real quick before we install it into the case, just to make sure that everything's nice and clean. Now we can install our case and our movement assembly together, mate them together. They are one from here on out, and this thing is really starting to look like a complete watch. So I'm super happy with that. Go ahead and flip everything over here, and I am going to push the movement assembly a little bit further down just to make sure that it's fully installed into the case. And let's have a look at it. Super happy with this thing. Was a little concerned that this might be a little too much gold, but is there really such a thing as too much gold in the first place? So I think not. Super happy with how this thing looks. Love that chocolate brown dial. Really plays well with all the gold accents of this watch. And I'm super happy with how it's looking. So let's go ahead and get ready to install the case back gasket and lubricate our crown gaskets. I'll start with the crown gaskets here, get them lubricated. I already measured the crown and cut the stem. So if you guys are curious on that stuff, I have videos on how to do that. It's not super difficult. So we'll just make sure our crown gaskets are lubed up well, and we'll install that into our case here. We'll make sure that it threads all the way down and seats up nicely against the case for a watertight seal. Now I'm going to go ahead and lubricate the case back gasket with some silicone grease as well. So just put a thin layer on this and then install it into that little groove on the back of the case there. That lubricant also helps hold the case back gasket in place. So it gives it a little bit of tackiness, so it holds itself in that groove really well. Plus it'll preserve the rubber gasket as well. Go ahead and thread our case back on here, just hand tight for now, and wipe away the excess grease. Now I can lubricate the bezel gasket. So we'll lubricate this with some silicone grease as well. We want a nice thin layer around the entire bezel gasket. Now we can go ahead and install it. Before I do, I did want to mention that this is going to have a bi-directional click spring. I got this from Crystal Times, and you can see they just kind of folded over those two tabs that would normally catch the bezel. That way it can have a bi-directional action. I really like these for GMTs. It's a small detail, but it's little details like that that really make or break a watch in my opinion. So I definitely recommend them if you're doing a GMT build. Now we can go ahead and install our bezel onto the case here, and then we'll get everything installed onto the bezel press. Just get everything nice and lined up here. Gonna line it up a little bit better and then start pressing on the bezel. Just like the Crystal, I like to rotate the case around just to make sure that the bezel is going on nice and evenly. Once the bezel is clicked on, you'll hear a nice satisfying click. Let's go ahead and check our bezel action here. It feels great. Really happy with that bezel action. And this is going to make it much easier to, set the GMT bezel and track your secondary time zone, so you can plus or minus your GMT time. So with that, we'll go ahead and install our adhesive ring. Get this all the way pressed on, just like that. Now we can go ahead and remove that top layer. Go ahead and get that out the way. Now I'm going to go ahead and install our bezel insert. We're just going to get this lined up perfectly. You do want to be careful when you're doing this because you really only get one chance at it. So we'll get that on there. And let's have a look at the watch. It looks great. I really like the gold accents and how it ties into that bezel insert. Bezel action feels great. Having that bi-directional bezel is going to make it much easier to track that secondary time zone. Everything looks good. Check from the side profile here. I love that dome sapphire crystal and that sloped insert. They pair up super nicely. So everything looks great. Let's go ahead and get this thing on a strap. So here it is paired up with a Strap Habit FKM rubber strap. This is a waffle strap, and I really like this thing. I got it on a matching gold buckle signed Strap Habit, and it has this really cool captured keeper here. You can see it's captured. That's a really nice feature. And then you have your secondary floating keeper to take up access on the strap there. Really like that. They also have quick release spring bars, so they're really easy to install. Really like that feature. I'll go ahead and zoom out here a little bit so you can, see the whole watch with the strap and everything. It looks really good on this waffle strap. Lots of 62 MASs back in the day came on waffle straps, so I found it very appropriate and I think it looks good. Not only does a 62 MAS look good on a waffle strap, but lots of Seiko models do. So really happy with how that looks and how the black ties into the PM scale of the GMT bezel. And then you have that lighter gray for the AM scale on the GMT bezel. So let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my buddy Tennessee Mike's channel for a chance to win this watch. And I'll close this video out with some natural light shots and a lume shot at the very end. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.